I think art fills in the void of the unknown. The other day we're talking about something while I was working here, and I said it's very interesting when you create art, when you create something. Whilst you're creating it in your confined space with nobody there, and you're the only one who understands what you're doing. And the excitement is just for you. But it's also very interesting when you put it out in the public, somebody sees it and they have a connection.
I think that art fulfills a void inside of us. It does. My experience as an artist, I think it's my place of sanity, because definitely it is a continuous answer about my personal void as a human being. And I think it's also a window through which those who are coming to view, they can take a closer look to life, the daily life, from a perspective that was not seen before. And I like very much, that's why I repeat this Eduardo Galeano poem, where he talks about this child, Diego, who wanted to see the ocean, and they're far away, and his father, Santiago Kovadlov, takes this kid, and they travel mountains and sand dunes until they finally get in front of the ocean. And the child gets so stupefact, so impacted by this that he can't speak for a while, and after a while he turns to his father and says, "Help me to see." And I think this is very much what we do when we produce our pieces, is an invitation to stop and see all the other layers that are in fact around us, and that we simply consume as we walk by things, by light poles, by cars, by all the things that we bring as very objects, daily objects. But we bring the layers of meanings behind these compositions, these things that we put together as artists. So I think this is how I feel about the art as a window, as a door.
I have this idea of transitioning into 3D forms, but then I don't have the time. So I think setting this time apart is actually helping me to explore something that I've been thinking about. But then her push is also saying, instead of me following like this kind of secured path, or a formulated path, she'll be like, why don't you break away from that and explore this? Why don't you look at it this way?
While I was in the residency in Tanzania, I worked with 3 artists throughout the months I was there, one in each month. And I think that is much more like I think it's much more like listening to what are the interests that the person has towards this time of investigation. It is a time of investigation, and also a time where you can investigate without necessarily looking for a result. That's why I also invite in the end of the time that we have an open day studio where we can share what are the investigations, not necessarily as an exhibition of results of art pieces. And I think this role is very much to follow what the person is doing and try to listen the areas where there is an attempt of avoiding going there because you fear that not might work, but maybe these are areas where your work can be seen from another perspective without necessarily changing the concepts that you're using. We chose each other to be, we were introduced, our works were introduced to each other, so we chose to do this experiment together. So what I was inviting him is that he could bring this background and we could navigate in these not so comfortable areas where we don't know exactly how things are going to end up with. And I always trust that not knowing where things are going to end up with will lead us where things will end up into something that are not the expected things. So that's how we held each other's hand. Had a lot of fun too, right?
No, you're having fun. I'm not. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. My journey as an artist, I think, started way back in Ghana, where I wanted to follow the steps of my dad, who was an architect. I didn't really understand much about it, but I just felt like it was just something I wanted to do because I like the line drawings. And somewhere along the line, my dad said we cannot all be architects. So he suggested I go into jewelry making. And at the time, I thought, why, I just got out of school, from high school, why should I go study, be an apprentice as a jeweler? Come on. But then it was until I visited the shop where I was going to do my apprenticeship that I realized that most of the guys that I was going to be apprenticing under were all, like they had a degree in metalsmithing from the university. They had their lab coats on, looking all good and, all dressed up like they work in the band, but, I didn't have a goal to say, I'm going to be an artist, and yeah, I'm going to go for it. But the prominent goal that was in my mind or my head at the time that was pushing me forward was how to become a better jeweler, how to become a better designer, not a good designer. I was thinking of more of jewelry. And I think I was thinking more of the financial aspect of it than the design aspect of it. There is symmetry in life, and his goal was to look at the symmetry, look at start thinking consciously of what you're putting together, even if it is handmade, even if it is handmade. That actually ignited, that was one of my steps, like the first step to start looking at my artwork critically. And I think since then, when I'm working, I'm looking for that symmetry. I'm looking for that cohesiveness between the pieces that I'm putting together. I no longer just put them together because it is art. It needs to make a structural sense. I feel like sometimes I go to places, and when things are not balanced, it begins to affect my, is it feng shui or my being? It begins to affect me until I find out why or what is going on to stabilize or to find the balance. So by finding the balance, I also realized the importance of how do I tend to create that kind of perfection, even though there's no perfection in life. And that was when the idea of computer-aided design and manufacturing came to play. Because once again, I'm trying to think like an artist, but I'm also trying to think like an engineer.
this specific invitation, this role that one take as artists, is what has been my interest. This, from beginning, I have been interested in how can we expand our understanding of life to more than just having everything fixed in place so that we can feel secure. Because I believe this desperate need for control as one of the problems that we have to deal with differences in terms of culture, with changing of our life into something else we did not expect to be. So I always felt drawn towards this. But I think there's such a huge fear that when somebody talks about being an artist, people believe that they won't be able to achieve all these things if they follow this career. So I was very much guided and invited by my family to follow the career of architect. And I went into during the SATs, I started to prepare for this, and I went into college, the University of Bahia. And I was becoming very uncomfortable, and I did not know why, because maybe I was expecting that architecture would fulfill this need that I had in terms of art. And I couldn't find this there. And I remember at that time, I said, but why don't you go for it? Just go for it. Because I thought, if I had, from 22 years old, I had followed this, I would be somewhere else. And I was already 30. And then I started to think, you know what? I am going to do this from now until the day I die. Because it doesn't matter anymore. I have all this time. So I'm going to jump into it with so much this hunger that I have, that I just went into it. So the next thing I remember is that my architecture office was doof, and I bought this bench, and this man who's a metalsmith, he accepted me as an apprentice, and for many years I went doing the crowns for Iemanjá and Oxum, the metalwork, the cups. And I remember that a lot of people was kind of shocked, saying, how can you stop being an architect and now you're arts craft for Candomblé religion? And so I'm happy. I remember I was like, happy, and blow torching everything. But it was such a healing thing. That's the next step. And I know it's going to be difficult. It is difficult. But it is also the acceptance that any career, any practice that we have as engineers, lawyer, as artists, as anything, we will have the best and the worst of it. So this is the best and the worst of being an artist. And I finally, as maturity comes, I can take this and say, okay, if this is what I want, I'm taking both sides. Because we are all taking both sides of everything. If you marry, you have this or that. If you're an artist, you have this or that. If you have an engineer, if you're an engineer, you have this or that. So this is just accepting the step that I took. Swords of Ogum. It is a plant that is very much respected in the Afro-Brazilian traditions. So also I'm always working with my roots in my work. It's important, not only important from here, but I always bring this as when I see it's there, so it's always part of something that I'm producing. That these 3 rocks here, there are some mapping that I'm going to project the conversations of different languages in these three rocks. So we will have some Arabic. I am trying to convince Ebenezer to speak some of his language, and I think I will speak some Portuguese here so that we can start a communication.